And see here, get that to where you can see exactly what I'm doing. All right, you can take and simply come in here, right, and just cut these puppies. 1, 2. Okay, resistors out of the way. All right, let's see if I can do that without moving this thing all over the place. It's out of the way, and there it is. And you just toss it to the side. Now, if you're worried about it, you can take a soldering iron, there's no doubt. And this is what I use, just a Weller soldering iron, okay? And you can take and let it heat up a little bit and such. And you can take that same screwdriver and just ease up under this resistor just a little bit, right? And after that thing heats up, just take and melt the solder and it'll pull up. Let that cool off a little bit. It will burn you if you're not careful. And looks like I didn't get it all the way up. Anyway, it pulls off the circuit board like so. The other side will be a little bit easier because you can just grab the resistor without the screwdriver and heat that solder up there also. And voila, you got the same resistor. It's out, but using a soldering iron, it's still intact. If a person needed to, they could actually slide it back into place and use it. If it's cut, the terminals are going to take and be too short and not going to want to go in there. These capacitors, do they have to be there? Nope. And just for reference, and I'm nothing against these capacitors, they're probably in there, my guess anyway, they put them in there for static, like if a TV's on or something. It used to take and be that they'd put capacitors in place to take and help control that little bit of static that the electric track would take and run. But in this case, I didn't take and waste any time. I just simply took and took everything off of it. I wanted to find out what was what and why. And the biggest reason was because, you know, I don't feel cool about people buying them out in cars and putting it on their track and not being able to figure out what's going on and why. So, and this is a whole lot easier if you use a clamp or something to hold it, or if you have another person helping you. And that one's just being ornery. Okay. And anyway, I'm pulling them off one at a time type thing with a soldering iron, which is, you know, to each their own. You can take and just cut those little leads off and it'll just come off because it's going to do the same thing in the end result. All right. Now, for the wire, you can use just about any kind of hookup wire as far as it goes. Let me back this thing up a little bit. All right. You can use just about any old kind of hookup wire. This is probably about this is number 14, I suppose. But the bottom line is it doesn't need that much and it doesn't need to be that long. Because if you'll notice, on this one here that I already modified, okay, those are where the terminals are, and they don't even have to be as long as they're showing. But that little bit of hanging out there won't hurt anything if you're not being able to get the wires real short. And because when it goes down in there, as you can see, there is room for it to slide into place, no big deal, okay? So we're going to take these here, snip that there, and give or take, you know, make one that's short, right? Snip it on the other side. And in this case, you might want to tin the solder just a little bit, or tin the wire with some solder. And that's done pretty easy. You just basically take and heat up the solder. Let's see if I can get this a little closer for you. Okay, I'm not a cameraman, that's for sure. And heat your soldering iron up a little bit. Of course, it can be a stick type soldering iron, won't hurt nothing at all as far as the type. And just kind of tin it a little bit. And what that does is get that solder started in the wire, and all that really does for you when you go to put it on is help the solder attach itself and make a good contact very quickly when you take and go to put it on. Now, this wire doesn't even have to be as long as it is, and I'm going to trim it just a teeny bit. Let's see here, just to clean it up. Now, and because I'm not even remembering until I look at it, where do those wires go to? So what I'm going to take and do, and suggest you do the same thing when you do your track, I can take this here off now, is take this here, and when you're looking at it, okay, need to pay attention to what I'm doing here. Okay, when you're looking at this piece right here, you want to mark exactly where those wires need to go. even before you start soldering or anything like that. Now I can take a look at this other one, right? And I can take and put 2 marks exactly where they need to go. All right, I'm just using the black marker. There. And over here. Kind of hard to see. Anyway, when I take and go to solder the 2 places, or solder these wires into place, as soon as I glance down, I'll be able to see where that was at. So now I can take the soldering iron, just like I said, the wires tinned, and you can see that there's still wire on this item, so on the board itself. So when I take and go to solder it, get this thing hot again, and just take and heat it up a little bit. As soon as it starts melting, blow on it, kind of cool it off, because that puppy does get hot. Alright, now after it cools and it's not too hot to touch, just take and move this over. Alright, and basically you're wanting it to take and be pretty much right above it, because it will take and bend and you should be able to hold it. You can take a screwdriver, not your finger, or a pair of pliers, but a screwdriver is just as simple. And again, heat it up a little bit, and as soon as the solder starts to melt, stop, wait just a second, blow on it, and that one's done. Alright, and the same thing is going to take and happen over here. And I'm not going to go through that, but you're going to see exactly where they go. Let's see here. Well, that's hard to take and do backwards. Alright, and you can see the 2 places where I put it. And if you look real close at your own board, you'll be able to take and duplicate it, no problem whatsoever. So basically, after it's done, you just simply take this here, you slide it into place, maybe a little faster than I'm doing. Slide it down in there. You take the cover that came right off of it, and let me back this up a little bit more, and put it in position more or less. Alright, and if you'll notice these little holes right here and these tabs that are sticking up, that's where they take and lay when you take and pop it back into place. And it does pop into place. So, and you can hear it a little bit when you click it together. Alright, and then voila. Now, back to ground zero again. Transformers. If you use the Carrera transformer, which is the same one that I have here, and let's see if I can get this close enough to where you can read. Let's see here. Boy, that's kind of hard to do. Anyway, if you look real close, it's 0.3 of an amp. That's not even a third of an amp, okay? Plenty of voltage, but it just doesn't have any guts to it. This thing is light as all can be. I mean, I don't know how much it weighs, but it sure is. It's probably around 10 ounces, 12 ounces, something like that at the most. The Artin transformer that I suggest anyway, it's to each their own, okay? This is a dual output, and it uses, or it has an output at 25 watts. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but it's quite a bit. And it basically gives you 2 times 0.900 milliamps, which is almost an amp per car. Now, and that's more than enough for these little slot cars, okay? Anyway, so what I've done, as I showed you before, see which wire is which here, is I've taken the wires off of the, or the plug I should say, off of the Carrera. I just cut them, okay, because that's how they come, right? You still need to use your plug. You can go back as far as you want. This is about 6 inches, and you attach them to the Artin transformer, positive, negative. Then you have another 2 wires for the other one, because you have dual inputs on this particular setup. So you won't be able to use the Artin plug, but you can definitely take and use the Carrera plugs. You're going to take and cut that apart. If you ever had to put it back together, you could put it back on your Carrera and it would still work. But after you get done with all that and you plug everything back in, you're going to find out that the cars work fine. They're going to have plenty of power, and you're not going to have an issue anymore in reference to running those cars. That's kind of what I tried to describe on some of the other videos, but it just wasn't maybe coming across the right way. And it wasn't done because I was trying to get away with something or anything like that at all. But these cars do great as far as the Artin cars, as do put in the Carrera or the SCX on there. the Carrera and SEX basically the same type of motor. In fact, I bet you could interchange them. Kind of makes me wonder again if Carrera and SEX are basically the same company and one makes one and puts a label on it and so on. But that's pretty much it. If you have a question, you can always take and message me at eBay. I'll take and try to give you a hand the best that I can in reference to what you're asking. But it's 123-caveman, and of course ebay.com. On the site, you should be able to find anything. It doesn't matter which item you pick to send the message. Just tell me what you're looking at, what you're trying to do. I'll see if I can help. Thanks.